All right, we'll start with Bob Prisbilla with the first questions.
Yeah, Porter, there's so much talk about a starting lineup. What did you learn over the weekend in terms of your crunch time, those final 5 minutes lineup?
What I learned in the final 5 minutes is we gotta establish some leadership down the stretch. You know, knowing how to win, what we need to do to win. Took 4 ill-advised quick shots when we're wanting to pull it out, run some clock, get a good possession. The shot that you take quick in transition is different based on time and score. If you take that shot, all good shot like Tanner Groves, a trail 3, Mo Gibson, a quick transition 3, all good shots in the course of the game, not up 6 with 4 minutes left. You want a good possession. They're on the ropes. They got to get a stop. They want to take a quick shot. That's as good as a turnover if it doesn't go in. So we've got to, a lot of those guys haven't been in situations where the ball was in their hand at the end of the game. I know for the guys that returned last year, it seemed like Austin probably had the ball in his hand a lot at the end of the game. Jordan's got to learn, with what we want. He's got to. We need some voices to be established on the floor as an extension of the coach on the floor. You don't have 12 timeouts. I wanted to save a timeout. I ended up having to use one after the third bad shot. But you want those timeouts when you're up that in case they're pressing, you need to call a timeout, all different kind of scenarios. So what I learned, Bob, was that we need to establish some leadership in tight situations and establish a voice on the floor.
And then Bijan was banged up for some part of preseason camp. How nice was it to see what he was able to do throughout those 3 games?
I thought the early game, I thought he did some nice things. He's got to continue to get better. And it is good to see him healthy. It is good to see him at full strength and not with a hobbled knee, ankle. So, I think Bijan, as well as, some other guys off the bench, we have to improve our depth. And I had long meetings the last 2 days with our staff about development with our bench. I think CJ Nolan's has been the most consistent off the bench. We've got to continue to develop Alston, Bijan, Ethan, Jacob Groves. We've got to be deeper. We've got to. It's a big key for us is to get our bench more developed.
Appreciate it, Porter.
Yep.
Next question for Ryan Chapman.
I was going to actually kind of piggyback off that. Your rotation tightened a lot in that last game. Do you think that there was an element of almost mental fatigue as they're kind of working through that may have contributed to some of those quick fire shots when you needed to run some clock there?
No, I didn't think it was mental fatigue. I think, we had a day off in between the game. It was those guys, it wasn't like anybody played 40 minutes. I thought it was just not understanding time and score. And I don't want to give an excuse of mental or physical fatigue. Everybody in this country, everybody's playing tired and in these tournament situations. And it's just growth. New guys, new team, new coaches, new roles. And that's what these early season games, I've said this now a couple times in the media, on the radio, with our guys, that loss can't go in vain. We've got to take something away that's going to help us win a game in the future. And that is time and score with shot selection. And we have to have a voice on the floor. Hold it up, pull it out, run. We have a couple calls that we do that we run some actions with some movement and that take some time off the clock and get a good possession. And they got to hear that voice. And for me, they got to pay attention to that voice. We were yelling it, and then they got to have their own understanding of down the stretch. But in terms of your rotations, yeah, it always seems like that in some of these games where you're winning lopsided. You can play 13 guys. It's not realistic, to play that many guys in close games. So, but I want to continue to develop a deeper rotation than we and a better rotation.
And when you talk about developing that leadership, how surprised were you? Because I know coming into the year you had talked a lot about needing to find your go-to guys, but it looked like that was happening over the first two games in Myrtle Beach with Tanner kind of taking over, Jordan being more aggressive. Was that surprising that all kind of wilted away there at the end?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it did. Well, I was, the one shot after another, and then the one in the corner by EJ. You're just like, especially after the other two happened. Jacob or Tanner took one running in transition, then Mo took a really quick one, and then all of a sudden EJ took a quick one in the corner. It was just so. Yeah, I was surprised because we've worked on 4-minute games a ton. Up 8, down 8, up 6. So I was surprised I think it was a little bit of them wanting to be the guy, wanting them to do well. They want to win. They want to do well. And we just got to understand, doing well. It's even Jordan Gowire's shot in the corner with like 2 minutes left. There was 16 on the shot clock. He's a 90% foul shooter. He's a 60% 2-point shooter around that area. And he's in the 20s from 3. And he settled for a 3 instead of driving. The guy was flying at him, driving a closeout, kicking it, getting to the foul line, taking a closer layup. That's understanding time and score at that shot in the course of the game. Yeah, he can knock down a 3. But man, situationally, 2 minutes left, tight game. He's 90% for the foul line. They're in bonus, and the guy's flying at him. Get to the foul line, collapse the D, kick it. Those are things where we got to learn to make it hurt in certain situations.
Thanks, Coach.
Eric Bailey.
Porter, I guess I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall during your video.
I'm not so sure you would. I'm not so sure.
I want to ask you, I'm doing a story on the Groves brothers. I'm doing a feature on them, and noticed out there, how big was it just to have that family support? I mean, it was crazy in that gym, in a gym that's pretty quiet. We're trying to create your own energy. What was it like seeing the support that the brothers have by their family?
Really cool family and friend dynamic to have that many travel all the way from the West Coast to Myrtle Beach. Really cool family dynamic, great people. And there was a lot of people. Bijan's family brought a lot of people. It was cool to see that. A lot of the parents were there. That part of it was great to see and we're all getting to know each other, the parents and everybody. It wasn't like in the recruiting process I could recruit the families or do home visits. This team was really put together through Zoom. And so to be on a road trip and have all that family dynamic and all those people there, that was a cool dynamic of the trip.
Now, have you coached a pair of brothers on the same team before, or is this the first time?
I believe it's the first time. I gotta think back. I've been doing this 30 years. No, back at Texas A&M, Corey and Chuck Henderson. I was an assistant coach. Corey and Chuck Henderson at Texas A&M. I coached. Those were a set of brothers.
Last question on the same subject. As a coach, what's it like seeing that brotherly support? I mean, big brother, little brother. Do you sense it? Do you see it? Or is it one of those things where they get on the practice floor, they're their own person. They're going to be a teammate instead of more than a brother, which is probably what you like to see too.
It's both. I mean, they're definitely individuals that play a part of the team, but you do see that dynamic where they're together a lot. Not as much as twins, but you sometimes you almost feel like it because they came from the West Coast together, not knowing anybody here, and then now they obviously know our guys and their teammates. But the good and bad of it. I saw one time Jacob cut to the basket and Tanner hit him for a layup and he got fouled and they both were hyped. And then another time Tanner was really trying to pound it into, I think it was in the first game, pound it into Jacob. I mean, just almost too long, look, and then he ended up turning it over. And I'm like, Tanner, come on, man. There's other guys.
I remember that play. I saw you on the sideline. So
yeah.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate it. Have a good night. Okay.
Yep, you too.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. Jesse, will you go first, please?
Yeah. Hey, Porter, I appreciate your time today. You've talked a lot about with this being a new team, kind of everyone needing to find their roles, and that would be a big thing for you guys. Just through the first 5 games, especially when it comes offensively, who's getting touches, who's getting shots. Do you feel like your team is figuring out what their roles are? And is that something that comes naturally that players just understand, or do you sometimes kind of have to help that process along?
It's a little both. Sometimes the more games come, it starts establishing yourself. So there was such an unknown. We truly had not one player average double figures in a Power 5 conference. Not one is average double figures in a Power 5 conference. So there was a little bit of an unknown waiting to see, like through a good sample size of games, what was starting to evolve. You know, Tanner's evolving into a guy is scoring some points for us. But also got to help that along. You asked me if I've been pleased with it. I have been up until the last game. You know, I thought some of our shot selection and guys forcing some issues. You know, sometimes you gotta pass up a good one to get a great one. You know, especially when you start to have a lead. You don't need to take the first time. We had 3 guys off the bench that the first time the ball hit their fingers, it was a shot. So you gotta, you know, you want them to feel loose. We want them to feel confident. You want them to feel, but there's also a little bit of flow that goes into offense. It's just, you know, my mentor, Coach Majerus, like I always said, you know, shooting's not an equal opportunity position. You know, there's a reason why you're open. And that's the thing that Coach used to always say. And so I have been pleased with how it's evolving. The last game, there was a lot of teaching moments in that last game.
I appreciate it, Porter.
Yep.
All right, James Hale with the final question.
Hey, Coach, you know, I'm listening to you and I've watched your games and I can tell you guys are all getting to know each other. I'm curious, don't you feel like, or do you feel like, boy, the talent's here? You guys have played some really good ball and I saw your frustration at times and things like that, but I'm looking forward to what you look like in games, you know, 8 or 9 games from now. The more you guys play, don't you feel like you have the talent to get better and better?
You know, I think we are getting better and better, James. You know, it was good to hear. You know, I'm in it every day.
Yeah.
But I had friends like Steve Donahue at Penn, who was at the tournament, and Joe Dooley at East Carolina, and Ryan Odom at Utah State, and talked to them. And Chris Jans was my former assistant, and just to hear their opinions, they thought that our defense was. In a short amount of time, they could see our defensive culture implemented faster than they thought it was going to be. That so it was good to hear that, you know, because I'm so critical on so many things. But it was good to hear some outside voices, some free people that I know that said some things that they could totally see the defensive culture that we had going at Loyola in there. We've got to space it, move it better. I thought there's times where we've had super high assists that we've moved it and spaced it. We've got to have that in tight situations as well. And that's something we got to grow from. But, you know, where we were 6 weeks ago to now, man, we're a lot better. And we're going to be better 6 weeks from now. And that's just got to be part of our process, mentally and physically.
Hey, good luck Wednesday. See you Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.